All right, we make the smooth segue to Booger McFarland, football analyst for the Mothership, appears on college football coverage throughout the season, and ESPN's Monday Blitz, other studio shows. He was all fired up yesterday or Sunday talking about Florida State. Bring Booger in here. If you were in the committee room and they were just ready to go out and announce who was going to be in, last call, what would you have said to the committee members to make sure that Florida State was going to be in the Final Four?
Guys, I think we have a problem. And the problem is this, is that we're making judgment inside this room on what we think is going to happen on the field. And need I remind you, Friday night, we watched Oregon play Washington. Everyone that I talked to outside of the state of Washington thought that Oregon was a better team than Washington. Vegas had them as a 10-point favorite, depending on which book you looked at. Washington won. Tulane was a favorite over SMU. Everyone thought that Tulane would beat SMU. Vegas had them as a favorite. SMU won the game with a second-team quarterback, Dan. And I think I would have told everybody, let's be careful. This sport has always been a show-me sport. You play it on the grass, between the white lines, and regardless of what we think we know, how many times have we been surprised by teams making a run, whether it's pro football or college football? Remember the New York Giants, 9-7, wild card team, barely got in. Remember those Giants? And I think we all know what happened that season. So you never know what's going to happen. And I think we better be careful when we start playing the game inside a nice, comfortable room, eating scrambled eggs and bacon, and, nice little warm fire there. Because the game is not played that way. And I would have just put my microphone down and told them all, if you can honestly say that you know that Florida State can't win a game or two in the playoff, then you can sleep well at night. But I can't.
Yeah, it's the cruel reality of this, Booger. It is a beauty pageant. At the end of the season, everything that is window dressing during the season. Where are you? Top 4, 5, who's in, who's out, all of that. It comes down to the bottom line. It's going to be fan bases that travel, games that are interesting. Will you go to 2 bowl games? Will you fill up the stadiums? Will people tune in to watch this? There's a lot of ancillary things that happen here. I don't think the ACC is viewed as a true power conference. I think it's the Big Ten and in the SEC. Pac-12, probably, with their conference schedule this year, better conference than the ACC. I think this was a reality check for the ACC of where they stand in college football. We may not like it, but there's unwritten rules. You go undefeated, you're supposed to play for a national championship. Well, if you have your starting quarterback, I certainly understand that. And even if their backup quarterback, Booger, if they put up 28 points against Louisville, I think they're in.
Yeah.
I think the committee looked at this and went, there's no draw with this team. There's no reason. If Jordan Travis plays, then yes. But it's unfair, but it's the reality of this. And that's what people have to understand. It's about money and it's a bottom line business.
Well, Dan, I'm going to disagree with you right there. Again, I think you're doing the same thing. If you're projecting, yeah, it's a draw, but football has never been about
I'm not agreeing with it. I'm explaining it,
right,
Booger.
Right. Yes, I get that. But football is a sport, man. Like, we watch football because we never really know. Any given Sunday, that's the old cliche. And so when you start talking about the draw and the matchup and what's sexy, who cares what's sexy? This is not a sport like figure skating. This is not that. It's never been that. So even though we want to make it that out to be a beauty pageant, the innate nature of the game of football takes you away from being that. And so I hear you, and I hear everybody that's saying, man, it's about the money and the matchups and all these different things. Yeah, to a certain extent, you can schedule those matchups in the non-conference. But when you start putting together a playoff, that is earned. That is something that is earned. And so I will go to my grave saying that Florida State, based on what we do, and to your point, here's what I'll say to you. So 10 of the 13 members on the committee were the same last year. Okay, there's 3 that are different. Last year, I think you and I can both agree, Alabama, who lost to Tennessee, who lost to LSU, was a better team than TCU.
Yes.
I think they were a better team.
Yeah.
TCU lost the conference championship to Kansas State. They put TCU in the playoff. So why last year did we not go and get the best team last year? What's the difference? To me, there is no difference. So I just think based on the people in that room, for whatever reason, and I'm not going to speak for them, they made up in their mind that Florida State can't compete. And there are coaches in the room. There's 2 coaches in the room. And I can't believe those 2 coaches let that happen. And maybe they were the ones who were in the forefront of leading the charge. I have no idea. I wasn't in the room. I just think it's a dangerous game to play sports inside a room instead of on a court or on the grass.
I agree. I understand it. I just try to explain what was told to me by a higher authority involved in college football.
Do you agree with it?
I know it's a TV show. I know
That's not what I asked you, Dan.
Do I agree with the 4 teams that are in?
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
And why is that?
I once again, I deal in reality of a bottom line, and that is these are sexy matchups, marquee Texas might be the best team. You got Harbaugh in there. You got Nick Saban. Alabama. I mean, Washington has a great quarterback, wide receiver. Like, we want to see excitement. If the NFL could prevent a team from the NFC South from hosting a playoff, don't you think they would do that? Don't you think?
But they can't.
They can't. But college football can create what they want to create. The NFL can't. The NFL would go, hey, you know who's in? Cowboys and the Chiefs. They're in the Super Bowl. Hey, Atlanta's going to host a playoff game and may have 8 wins on the season. They can't control that.
Then if that's the case, why are we playing the games?
Well, I understand what you're saying. I just have to look at both sides with this. Do I think Florida State has an argument? Absolutely. Do I feel bad for that coach, that team, that quarterback? Absolutely. But I've been around for a long time doing this and understanding what motivates. The reason why we're going to 12 teams is why, Booger? Because of money. Why did we go from 2 to 4 when they finally realized how much money they could make? That's why we're going to 12. March Madness used to be 32 teams. It's 68. Why? It's money. It's not always fair. And that's where I end on it's money. It's unfortunate, but it's money.
I get it.
All right. Booger McFarland joining us on the program. If you were a member of the New York Jets today and Zach Wilson came into the locker room, as a veteran, what would you say or do?
Well, I think we all have a job, and this is called pro football. Like we're all men in here, and we get paid a lot of money to do this job. And if he's been deemed to be the next man up to come back in and play quarterback, I understand the sensitivity and I understand the emotion. That's a very sensitive position. That is a very mentally challenging issue they have in New York. But at the end of the day, I would tell them you're a professional. If it's no different in baseball. If it's your turn to grab the ball, you grab the ball and you step on the mound. If it's your turn to get under center, you go under center. Now, here's what I would say. I would tell the coach, if you want me to go back under center, I'll go back under center. But don't pull me. Let me play. Because this yo-yo going back and forth, I can't do that. Now, if you want me, you want me. If you don't, then tell me you don't. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to subject myself mentally to going in and out based on the emotion of an organization and a fan base who ultimately doesn't want me. They want Aaron Rodgers. And so I understand as a veteran player what's going on in that locker room. Everyone in that locker room wants a different quarterback. The only reason they want Zach to play is they're trying to get competent play now until Aaron can hopefully miraculously come back from this Achilles. So I truly understand. Dan, it's like this. I'm a married man. I think you are too. Imagine if your wife said, hey, I want you to hang around another month or two until this new hot, young, sexy guy comes along. How the hell would you feel? I mean, come on, man. And so I get what Zach is going through. But at the end of the day, this is professional football. You get paid a check every Tuesday. You grab the ball and you go play.
I get what you're saying, and it's an intelligent take on that of let me play, good or bad, support me, but don't all of a sudden after one half you're going to bench me, and then I have to regroup and then get ready for the following. Like Mac Jones. Like don't you can't you're not going to get any progress. Mac Jones is dead in New England. Like he's
done.
Right. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing, though. And that's the one position you have to have confidence. Of all of them, we're going to take away your confidence. Now go get them. But I don't know if maybe he said that in a way, and it's being spun in a different way. Like, hey, I'll go out there, but support me. If not, then I don't want to go out there. Because now Aaron Rodgers got involved as a mediator here, and it feels like there's more to it. I don't know if we're making more, therefore that's why it's become a bigger story.
I would tend to agree with you without understanding the entire conversation or the entire quote that's being spread out there about he doesn't want the ball. I would need to know more. Generally speaking, again, we're pro football players. We line up and we go play. There are extenuating circumstances in New York. He's been benched. If you go back to his entire career, he's been benched, 2 or 3 times, maybe even more than that. Yeah. And so you have to understand the context of what's going on with this young man. I've been very critical of Zach Wilson going back when he didn't accept blame for how bad he played. True. And so I think the kid has been through a lot. I would just be careful if I'm New York. They made the first mistake by making him the backup. You didn't want to move on, bring somebody else in, and now the situation becomes less toxic. And so hopefully after this season, regardless of whatever Aaron does, if Aaron's going to come back for another year, they get another backup quarterback, let the young man go on about his business, because it's clear to me they don't want him in New York. They need him, but they don't want him in New York. And I don't think the fan base wants him either.
I was looking at some numbers, the number of quarterbacks who have played so far this year. I think it's 70 quarterbacks have thrown a pass. Yeah. They can't make it any safer, can they?
I mean, what do you want to put flags on? I mean, you can't touch it. Listen, Dan, the rules are so bad right now. Sapp and I were talking about this. If you go and sack a quarterback, somewhere between hitting the quarterback and on the way to the ground, you have to figure out a way to levitate. That way you don't land on the quarterback too hard. Like, come on, man, seriously. Like, some of these things are defying human logic. Like, it defies physics. How can a 300-pound guy stop his weight in like a half a second and then roll over? And I'm like, come on, guys. Like, you may as well put a flag on him.
Yeah, I don't. Well, Trevor Lawrence got injured by his own teammate. So it's some of these injuries are preventable and some are, self-induced here. So that's where I don't know what else you can do other than what we've already done, which is above and beyond the call of duty.
I was told this years ago, and it's still true. It's not if a quarterback or a player is going to get hurt. It's when. Yeah. We all get hurt. Yeah. If you think about the great quarterbacks, and they've all been hurt. Brady, Manning, Rodgers, Rivers, Matt Ryan. I mean, just go down the list. All of them have been hurt at one point or another. Like, this is not a game where you're going to stay pain or injury-free your entire career. Patrick Mahomes had a dislocated knee. Like, you get hurt in this game. And so to your point, can they make it any safer? No. But you can do the old Peyton Manning. Anytime anybody gets near, just fall down. I think that's the only thing quarterbacks can do.
Good to talk to you. Keep fighting the good fight there, Booger. Thank you.
Always enjoyed being on with you, man. Happy holidays to you and the crew, man. Love this show. Love talking to you all the time.
Thank you, Booger. And that's Booger McFarland of the Mothership. He appears on ABC's college football studio coverage as well, the ESPN Monday Blitz and other studio shows.